US-29. Yeah. Alright, today we are taking a look at US-29 in North Carolina. It is a very urban road, and I'm sorry for not being able to cover it last week. I've been real busy with stuff, so the schedule's been pushed a week behind. Let's take a look at our map. As we can see, US-29 is a north-south road, more of northeast-southwest, and it goes from the little town of Grover at the North Carolina-South Carolina border, and then goes up through Charlotte, and then Greensboro, and up to the US 58 interchange at the Virginia and North Carolina state line. You're watching the Xavier 456 and NCDOT Provincial Lovin. I post new highway content every week. If you like this kind of content, then go ahead and smash that like button. And if you really like it, go ahead and smash the subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Alright, I must remind you that you can request your exit or intersection down in the comments below. Next week, we'll be covering US 52, and then after that, US 64, and then US 70. Long routes ahead. Alright, let's start by talking about northbound, US 29 in North Carolina. So here is the state line of South Carolina and North Carolina, and we can also see that there's a Grover City limits speed limit sign for 35 miles an hour, along with a normal speed limit 35 sign, but that's not important really. Right at the jump, we meet with NC226, which is getting signed for Shelby. And as for us, US-29 is signed for Kings Mountain. No, Kings Mountain is not where we go. Kings Mountain is only there because of where we meet with US-74 and I-85. I want you to sign, like, Gastonia for us, or even Charlotte for I-85, and not Kings Mountain. Although further up, we do get a North Carolina welcome sign, a proper one. I can see that this is a common practice with North Carolina, putting the welcome sign further up the road. Here we are splitting with NC216, which is the only reason we signed Kings Mountain. And that's what it's getting, Kings Mountain. And we're signed to North 85, and we're not getting anything. After we have joined I-85, quite some time later, we are now splitting off and also becoming concurrent with eastbound US 74. Westbound 74 is getting signed for Kings Mountain and Shelby, and those are right choices. And as for us, we don't get a control city. Why? I want to see Gastonia there. Gastonia is where we are going, and if you want to go to Charlotte, you would be on I-85, better off. Here in Gastonia, we are meeting US 321 along with NC 274. We do not get any control cities here for whatever reason. And the worst part, we don't get any mileage signs throughout this whole stretch. Mostly because it's just basically urban and Charlotte suburbs from here. Although we can spot some control cities at some minor intersections like this one, where we're seeing Cramerton signed eastbound rather than Charlotte. Why are you not signing Charlotte? Although, when we move further up into the city of Belmont, we do see Charlotte for eastbound and Gastonia for westbound. Those are the right choices. Here is where we meet with I-485, and it's getting signed for Spartanburg and Columbia. And this is what they do on the minor interchanges. They instead sign the control cities for the interstate highways they intersect. For example, 77 and 85. 77 is going to Columbia, and 85 is going to Spartanburg, although, once again, I don't know, that should probably be Greenville. US-29 and US-74 have the main intersection to the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, which is right here and can lead you right there. Here we're starting to get a good view of uptown Charlotte and its skyline, and we can also see a 2 I-77 shield right here. And when we meet I-77, all we're seeing is Statesville, and this is the northbound ramp. How dare you sign Statesville once again? Although, you don't know what should be signed here because Charleston's far away. I don't understand it. Here we are meeting NC49, and we are going to be coming concurrent with it as we go through uptown Charlotte. South 49 is straight ahead. Here's the best shot of uptown Charlotte that I could get while we're going through it, and I like it. Here is where we're meeting I-277, and all we're seeing is 2 I-77, 2 US-21, and North NC-16 here. And when we look on the overhead on I-277 up there, all we're getting is the Kentucky treatment of Graham Street. And I can't remember, but I think you probably have seen this in the I-277 video, these Kentucky treatments in Charlotte. Darn you. Although later up the road, we now have the Lynx Blue Line light rail coming into the median of US-29. I gotta show this as a transit enthusiast for sure. Here's where we're meeting a ramp to I-85, and it's getting Gastonia. Once again, that is a secondary. No, do not sign Gastonia. Sign Greenville or Spartanburg. I don't know, but one of the two. And as for us, we're getting a straight up arrow for Concord. And I think that could be okay. We also meet with NC24 while the Lynx blue line is still in the median, and we can see there's also a 2I-85 shield there. And we don't get any control cities. Here's where we're meeting I-485 in the northern part of the metro area, and we're not getting any control cities here either. Although up there is a green sign that says Concord straight ahead for us. After meeting I-485, we pass by the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which is America's home for racing. Here we meet the George Lyles Parkway, which is only getting just that, although 2I-85 is signed for west, and we are pulled through 29 North Concord, even though we are basically in Concord at this point. I don't know, really. In Concord, we are meeting with US-601, and here's the ramp to southbound, although we don't get any control cities here at all. We're joining with northbound 601 here. And it splits off as we meet with I-85, and they're both getting signed for Greensboro, as they absolutely should be. And 85 South is signed for Charlotte because we are well away from the city at this point, that if you want to get back there, you should take 85. And 29 North is now getting pulled through for Kannapolis and Landis. Those are our next two cities. I would argue we sign Salisbury next because there's more intersections there and it's more major. In Kannapolis, we are meeting with NC3. Just wanted to show this because NC3 is the second lowest NC State Highway number. We also meet with NC152 eastbound to I-85 and to US-601, and it's only going to get a control city of its own for Rockwell. 152 is the one going to Rockwell. And 29 North is now actually pulled through for Salisbury, which I do like. And here is a one-liner mileage sign. It is actually the first mileage sign of our journey in North Carolina. And we're seeing Salisbury 8 miles away. This reminds me of another certain one-liner with Salisbury on it. Bad memories. Although this one-liner with Salisbury on it is a lot less egregious. As we approach Salisbury, we meet with US-70 and US-601 again, as US-70 westbound will lead you to that, and we are becoming concurrent with East 70 for a long time at this point. Here we are going through downtown Salisbury, and it's a nice little town too. We also pass through Spencer, which is home to the North Carolina Transportation Museum, and I like that as a transit enthusiast. Here we are meeting I-85 again, and US-52 is also concurrent with it. And what is going on? We aren't getting any signage that we are actually joining up with these two highways. I want to see signage that we're joining up with I-85. What the heck, NCDOT? And then quite a while later, we leave I-85 and we join I-285. 85 North is getting signed for Greensboro and High Point. Those are the other way around. They should be High Point, Greensboro. And as for 285 and 52, we're not seeing 29 on here. We're signed for Lexington and Winston-Salem, at least those are the right choices. And as for I-285, I will cover it in the next video as US-52 runs through I-285's entire length. Here we're splitting off of I-285 and US-52, getting signed for Winston-Salem, and 29 and 70 are getting signed for High Point, which I think is a good differentiation, although you could argue Greensboro. Although, if you were to go to Greensboro, you would have stayed on 85. Here in Lexington, we are meeting with US-64 and becoming concurrent with it shortly, and it's signed west for Mocksville, which I think could be okay. And when we split off after Lexington, it's getting signed for Asheboro now, heading eastbound, which is absolutely right. And High Point is getting signed for 29 and 70 and Business 85. Here we get a mileage sign with Thomasville at 10 miles and High Point at 18 miles. I think that could be okay, but I'm feeling a little desperate for there to be a third line with Greensboro on it, because High Point is only 8 miles away from Thomasville. In Thomasville, this is actually where US-70 splits off of us, and we don't get any mention that US-70 is splitting off. All we're getting is NC68, getting signed for National Highway, Thomasville, and West High Point. Also, I-68 just called and said he wants his National Highway back. National Freeway, technically, but even still, the point still stands. Here is where we're meeting I-74, and it's getting signed west for Winston-Salem, and east for Asheboro. I don't think so. and North 85 Business and North 29 and East 70 are getting signed for Greensboro. Here we are joining up with 85 again, and it's getting signed south for Charlotte, as it should be, and we're signed 85, 29, and 70 north for Greensboro. We now leave I-85 once again, become our own independent freeway, and we're getting signed for Greensboro and to South I-73. You can also see North 73 and North 421 for Winston-Salem and Martinsville, and North 85 and South 421 for Durham and Sanford. Those are correct. Here in this independent freeway portion, we are meeting with US-220, and it's getting signed south for Ashboro. I don't know still. And North 220 is signed to West 40 for Coliseum area. I don't understand why. And as for that West 40, since you have that on there, I think you could put Winston-Salem on it. We're now joining into East 40, and we can see a pull-through on 40 itself with North 29 and North 220 for Durham, which is favoring 40. And when we split off along with North 220 being concurrent with us, we're getting signed for Reidsville. That's the last basically proper town in North Carolina that 29 will go through. Why is that there? I'd rather possibly see Danville on there. Danville will be a much better choice than Reidsville, but let's see what happens later. Here's where 220 splits off of us, and it is getting signed just Kentucky treatment for Wendover Avenue West, and you can also see 70 is getting Wendover Avenue East and West Bessemer Avenue. Why Kentucky treatment still? Even in the Piedmont Triad, I can't escape them. Here we are meeting I-840 and I-785. The both of those are getting signed south and east for Raleigh and Charlotte, which is awesome, and 84 West signed to Winston-Salem. All great cities on there. I should also mention that this freeway stretch of US-29 will, in the future, become I-785. That'll take us to US-58. And when we move further up the road, 29 North is actually pulled through for both Reidsville and Danville, which is good and proper, because I saw Danville was signed on I-840, and that is way better than Reidsville. Here we're meeting Business 29, which goes into Reidsville, and we're signed 29 North for Danville. Here in Reidsville, we are meeting US 158 and NC 14. That NC 14 thing looks a little familiar to something I live near, M14. Anyways, they're getting signed for Eden, which is for 14, and Yanceyville. Why Yanceyville? That's a small town, and we're only favoring like at least a few state routes. I want you to sign Roxboro, not Yanceyville. Here we're meeting Business 29 again. This time it's just getting signed for Ruffin, which is an unincorporated community, but it's basically the only thing that this business route goes through. Here we are at the end of the North Carolina stretch of US 29, and we can see North Business 29, another business route, is going into Danville, and West 58 gets signed for Martinsville, and North 29 and East 58 get signed for Lynchburg and South Boston, and I think those are fine choices. Although I don't think NCDOT would have come up with them. Maybe they did, but VDOT is the controller of this interchange. Alright, let's turn around and talk about southbound US 29 North Carolina. So we're actually going to start in Virginia, and we can see what VDOT is doing here. 29 North Business Danville, and 29 South Greensboro right from the jump off of 58. Great job there, VDOT. And here, right before the ramp to eastbound 58, we are welcomed into North Carolina. And then we immediately get on a mileage sign, and it's a great one. Reidsville 19, Greensboro 38. Double the distance of the distance to Reidsville. That's cool to see. Here we are meeting the exit to Ruffin, which is actually where the business route will begin. And you know what? Why not? Let's take this business route just for kicks. Since there is really little to see on this drive, let's skip ahead to where we meet proper with normal 29, which is getting signed for Greensboro and Danville, as they should be. The business route meets another route, NC 65, which is getting signed for Eden, and Reidsville is straight ahead for us, the business route. We also meet with US 158 in the stretch, and it's signed Richardson Drive, Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem is there for westbound US 158, and that is a great jump. Here we also got an arrow to East 158 as we are continuing on US 29. We have a straight up arrow that leads you to US 29 a faster way, as the business route will be turning right. We're actually going to do that. That's the longer way to proper 29. We don't get any control cities here. Here is where the business route ends into proper 29, and we're seeing it signed for Greensboro southbound, and that's where we'll be continuing. Here we're meeting I-785 and I-840 getting signed for Winston-Salem, Raleigh, and Charlotte. 3 big cities all in one sign. And 29 South Greensboro. That brings us to a total of 4 big cities, Awesome, NCDOT. Here is where we're coming concurrent with US-220, and it's just getting signed North Wendover Avenue West and 70 East Wendover Avenue East. And when we're concurrent with US-220, we now become concurrent with I-40 westbound. You can see there's a ramp to eastbound for just MLK Junior Drive, and that's just where you're going to get to from this ramp. There's no access to I-40 directly on this ramp. You're going to have to make a turn, but I still think you should have Durham or Raleigh on it. And as for us, we're signed for High Point in Charlotte. And we're favoring US-29 here when it comes to High Point and Charlotte, and also I-85 in this case. So maybe you could make a case for Winston-Salem for westbound instead of High Point, so as to just favor I-40 here, but I don't know. We split off of I-40 and US-220, and we're signed south for High Point and Charlotte. Awesome stuff, although the Charlotte is mainly there because of I-85. You're meeting US-220, and we're only getting a ramp to southbound this time, as it took a different route. And to continue on, it's just signed for Ashboro. Ugh, I don't like that. Here is where we're meeting I-73 and North 421 to West 40 for Groomtown Road and Winston-Salem and Martinsville. And we're now going to be concurrent with southbound I-85. And when we split off of I-85, getting signed for Salisbury and Charlotte, we're signed South Business 85, South 29, and West 70 for High Point. And I think that is fine. Here we meet I-74, and it's getting signed Winston-Salem and Ashboro. Although we do also have a Kentucky treatment of Brentwood Street. There's another ramp leading to it. Here's where Google Maps says we're becoming concurrent with US 70, getting signed just NC 68 for National Highway Thomasville and West High Point. Once again, this is I-68. Give me back my height! Here we are meeting US 64, becoming concurrent with it for a very short time, getting signed east for Lexington and Ashboro, and South Business 85, South 29, West 64, and West 70 are all signed for Charlotte. And really, that is awesome. And we're kind of skipping Salisbury. In this case, Charlotte is there for Business 85 to lead back into proper 85. Here we are splitting off of US 64, getting signed west for Knoxville, as I think it should be. And now we are coming into I-285 for the rest of its run to I-85. And when it ends, we dead end into I-85 to continue south. When we split off of I-85 and South US 52, they're getting signed for Salisbury and Charlotte. We're getting signed South 29 and West 70 to 150 for Spencer. You know what? I think Charlotte should be the only thing on the 85 pull-through, and Salisbury should be signed for 29. We should be seeing something bigger rather than just a neighboring town. Although when we split off, we do get a mileage sign with Spencer at 5 and Salisbury at 8. And I think you could make a case that is a good mileage sign, because if you were to go to Charlotte, you would have stayed on I-85. US 70 now splits off of us in Salisbury, getting signed for Statesville and Moxville. Moxville's there for 601, and Statesville is for 70. And as for 70, Statesville is the correct choice to sign on 70. Absolutely not I-77 or I-40. When we see a sign off of US 29, we see a junction 29 in East 70 for Salisbury and China Grove. China Grove is actually our next control city southbound. And while this is a more minor route compared to I-85, I think at this point we could be signing Charlotte rather than the suburbs. Here we get this really tall sign in China Grove to continue south on US 29 and west NC 152. Here we are meeting I-85 after Landis and Kannapolis, and we can see it's getting signed south for Charlotte because that, of course, is the faster way. And North 85 and North 601 gets signed to Greensboro, and 601 joins up with us southbound to continue into Concord downtown. And I think that is a fine differentiation. When 601 splits off of us in Concord, it is getting signed for Monroe, and that is a great choice for US 601 here. Here we meet the George Liles Parkway, once again just signed George Liles Parkway East and George Liles Parkway West to I-85. And 29 is getting properly signed south for Charlotte. Here we pass by the Charlotte Motor Speedway again, and to the right we actually have two more racing areas, the dirt track and a dragway. Here we are meeting I-485, getting no control cities whatsoever, and just signed to I-85 for northbound. Here meeting that ramp to I-85 with control cities given, Gastonia, no, signed Spartanburg or Greenville, and we're signed for Charlotte. Good. Here we're meeting I-277, and we're just getting signage for NC16, I-77, and no control cities given. In uptown Charlotte, we also pass right by the Bank of America Stadium. And to all my Panthers fans who are watching this video, go Panthers! Although I am a Lions fan. Here we are splitting off of NC49, and we continue south on US-29. You can see that they're splitting in opposite directions, but they're both going south. This is because it's splitting in an east-west direction. Here we meet with I-77 getting signed for Rock Hill and Statesville. What is this? No! Why are we signing Rock Hill over Columbia and Statesville over whatever? I don't know what to sign for northbound, but even still. Bad choices. Here we're becoming concurrent with US-74, and we can see a 2 I-77 for left. We meet the CLT airport once again, Charlotte Douglas, and this time we got a left turn into it. And we can also see some direction shields for 77 and 85, turn right. Here we are meeting I-485, getting signed for Columbia and Spartanburg, and we're getting a 285 directional matrix. The matrix can change the arrow to tell you which way you should take to go to I-85, depending on traffic, which is interesting. Off of the exit, we are signed for Gastonia, and for us, that is correct. Here we are meeting North 321 in Gastonia, getting no control cities. We now become concurrent with I-85 one last time in North Carolina, and we can see it's getting signed north for Charlotte, as it should be because we're well away from the city. And south we are signed for Spartanburg. We also get a ramp to Business 74 on the same ramp, and it's signed for Kings Mountain as it's going into town, and we're still signed south for Spartanburg. Here we've got an overhead for 85 south for Spartanburg and Greenville, although I actually had to go back on Street View to get this because this overhead is no longer existent. We're getting signed for 29 south, nothing. What is this, NCDOT? Why are you still neglecting control cities on our route? What we should be seeing for 29 South here is Gaffney. We should be signed for Gaffney at this point. Although, when we reach NC226 at the end of the state, which is getting signed for Shelby and Grover, those are the other way around, we are actually signed for Gaffney now, and that is the right choice. On the most recent Street View I could find, this is the old Welcome to South Carolina sign, I do believe, which I'm pretty certain could have been replaced at this point, but I'm not sure, but it looks really nice. Alright. Now it's time to move on to the Xavier 456 the way it should be for US-29 North Carolina. Alright, so this one I'm going to say northbound we should sign Charlotte from the start because of I-85, and then Gastonia once we split off of I-85, then Charlotte again, then Concord, and then Salisbury, and then Greensboro once we join with I-85 again, and then I-285 we should be signed for Winston-Salem, and then High Point after we split off, then Greensboro again, and then finally Danville. And then southbound we should be signed for Greensboro right from the jump, then High Point, after that, then Lexington, and then Charlotte because we meet with I-85, then after we split off, Salisbury, and then Charlotte once again, then Gastonia, then Greenville SC, either that or Spartanburg once we join I-85, and we split off Gaffney. Alright. That'll be it for US-29 in North Carolina. Next week, we're going to be covering US-52, and this also includes I-285, and also a stretch of I-74. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you then. May peace be with you.